So, good morning everyone. We are the reporter of Group 2 and I am the number 1 reporter. My name is Mr. Khalid Emre Upan from BACE2. So, bali guys, yung nakaraang grupo guys, they deal with the human person as the center of human rights and duties. So, ngayon, dito sa topic namin na to, we are going to use the same person from another angle as the center of objects and love. So, doon na po papasok yung first topic namin which is ethics and love. So, ano nga ba tong ethics and love? So, for me, joke lang. Ang love is si crush, mauna guys. Basta love gani, si crush na dayon na. Pero char lang, oy. Charot lang. So, guys, ang love is... Love does not merely aims at quantities. One does love quantities. Love aims at the deepest reality. Love doesn't based on physical appearance. Mali guys, ang love is doesn't only define the quantities and the quality. When you say love, ito ang pinakamalalim na realidad ng buhay. You can't even say you love that person if you only say maganda yung buhok niya, magaling siya kumanta, maganda siya, and other physical appearance. When you say love, binubuo mo ang lahat ng pinakamagandang bagay dito sa mundo. Lahat-lahat, and lahat-lahat na nakikita mo sa kanya ay napakaganda. And to the point na hindi ka na sinasakal nito, masasabi mo siyang true love. And ang love, yan lang ang nag-iisang bagay na kahit mamatay ka, dala-dala mo pa rin. That's what we call true love. Dapat ang motibo ng pagmamahal ay mas marangal. Hindi lamang ito tungkol sa tungkulin o sa obligasyon. Kumbaga, bawat kapwa sa atin ay kailangan nating mahalin. Dahil pagkat sila rin ay karapat dapat mahalin tulad natin. Sa mga tao din sa ating lipunan, dapat natin silang mahalin. Bakit? Dahil pareho lang tayo ng ginagamit na kalikasan, pareho lang tayong nasasaktan, pareho din tayo ng mga ginagawa sa ating buhay. At dapat, kung tayo ay magmamahalan sa ating lipunan o komunidad, may iwasan natin ang kasamaan, may iwasan natin ang hindi pagkakaunawan at higit sa lahat tayo ay makabuo ng pagkakaibigan, pagkakaisa at kapatiran na tutulong upang masugpo ang masasamang intensyon at may palaganap ang kaliwanagan ng tunay na pag-ibig. Kung ang isang tao ay nagmamahal, hindi siya gagawa ng masama dahil ang kasamaan ay ang esensya ng pagkapuot at pagkatanggi. Sino ba naman ang may gusto sa'yo kung ikaw ay masama? So, kung mahal mo talaga yung isang tao, dapat maging mabuti ka, gumawa ka ng mabuti, gawin mong mabuti ang buhay mo at tiyak akong matatanggap ka din niya kung siya man ay naghahanap din ng totoong pag-ibig. Ethic means doing good and practiced by virtues. So for example, sa Christians, meron tayong sinasabing 10 Commandments. And sa 10 Commandments, sinuturuan tayong magmahal. Unang-una, ang pagmamahal sa Diyos, kalaway ang pagmamahal sa kapwa. And let's be practical, ang ating mga batas ay ginawa din para sa atin. Bakit ito nagawa? Because of love. Siyempre, hindi naman sila gagawa ng batas na ikapapatay mo, no? Hindi naman sila gagawa ng batas na ikapapahamak natin. They made those rules to keep us safe. Bakit? Gusto nila maging safe tayo? Because mahal tayo ng ating gobyerno at ng ating kapwa. Ang next topic is love of self and love of others. The first law of nature, ang pinakaunang batas na kailangan nating matutunan sa pagmamahal is mahalin natin ang ating sarili. Normal lang na mahalin natin ang ating sarili. Pagkat kung hindi mo alam kung paano mahalin ang iyong sarili, hindi mo share yung love, yung true love na kaya mong ibigay 100% kasi nga, hindi mo mahal ang sarili mo. So, yourself come first before the other. Learn to love yourself first. Example, kung ang isa pa nating rule is ang pagpakamakatay ay nagpapakaulo ang hindi mo mahal ang iyong sarili. So, dapat yung magpakamatay, sayang naman ang buhay mo. So, guys, kailangan nga nating mahalin ang ating sarili dahil kung hindi nating mahal ang ating sarili, maaari tayong mahulog sa pagpapakamatay. Which is, ang pagpapakamatay isang paglabag sa kautusan ng nasa taas at maging sa kalikasan at maging sa pagmamahal sa iyong sarili. Huwag yung magpapakamatay, guys. Guys, maganda tayo, char. So, guys, love yourself first. make it always the priority. On top of the list is yourself. That's the mindset. Isa pa guys, you don't have the right to throw yourself. Wala kang karapatan sa katawang yan dahil binigay lang yan sa'yo ng may kapal. Ang Diyos lamang or si Allah lang ang may karapatang kumitil or kunin yung buhay mo. It's not your choice to take it away from you. So guys, ang love for others, for love for others, di ba sabi ko kanina ang pagmamahal sa sarili is more important. Well, yes, it is very important, pero kailangan din nating i-share ang love natin dahil ang tunay na pagmamahal ay hindi dapat nakakulong sa ating sarili. Dapat natin itong ibinabahagi upang share love. Share love dahil sa pagbibigay natin ng pagmamahal, maaaring nakatulong tayo sa kapwa at maaaring mabigyan natin sila ng bagong direksyon ng kanilang buhay. Kagaya nga ng sabi ko kanina, mahalin natin ang ating kapwa dahil karapat dapat din silang mahalin, katulad natin. Ngayon naman, dumako tayo sa sunod na topic ng aming report, which is the ethics and justice. So, bali guys, ang justice, isang wastong tinutukoy nito ay ang prinsipyo ng pagiging patas sa lahat ng aspeto ng relasyon, kahit saan o kahit sa anumang bagay. Ito ay ang pagsasabi ng tama at mali sa korte or justice, kumbaga. Pagiging fair sa lahat at pagsasabi ng totoo if ikaw man ang hukom or ang namimigay ng hustisya. From the foreign definition, we notice two essential attributes of justice, the university and equality. Ang university ay isang uri ng elemento ng hustisya kung saan ang katarungan ay kailangan maibigay sa lahat. Hindi lamang sa isang uri o grupo, kundi sa bawat isa ay kailangan makuha niya ang nararapat na para sa kanya na hustisya. Sa kabilang banda naman, ang pagkapantay-pantay o ang equality ay ang pangunahing prinsipyo nila ay ang humiling na ang katarungan ay para sa lahat, anuman ang proposisyon o kalidad sa buhay. Ito ay nagpapahiwatig na ang batas ay dapat ilipat sa lahat ng walang diskriminasyon. Halimbawa, sa ugnayan sa pagitan ng estado ng mga mayaman at pamahalaan ay hindi dapat maglaro o paborito ng alinmang uri ng diskriminasyon laban sa alinmang grupo o individual. For example po, kapag pupunta ka sa mall, ngayon for example, kung mayaman siya, hindi na siya titingnan ng bag, ganyan. For example, kung pulubi ka, dito ka. So, bali may discrimination pong nangyayari. For example, isa rin pong halimbawa dito is sa trabaho. For example, siya po mayaman, may kapit sa trabahong papasukan nyo. Siya po yung ma-hired agad. Ikaw na pulubi at kapit sa patalim. Malabo ang pag-asa mo. Kumbaga yung fair and equality po sa mismong... So, yung fair and equality po ay dapat ay nakikita po.
Hi, my name is Freshnel Giaman and I am the Group 2 reporter. General application. The principle of justice does not only govern the relations between an individual with another. It also applies to, number 1, duties of the state to the citizens or the distributive justice. In social psychology, distributive justice is defined as perceived fairness of how rewards and costs are shared by group members. Example of this is the government should render aid for education, the promotion of social justice, the protection of labor, for sanitation, and etc. Number 2, duties of the individual to the state, or the legal justice. Legal justice means rule of law and not rule of any person. It includes two things, that all men are equal before law and that law is equally applicable to all. It provides legal security to all. Law does not discriminate between the rich and the poor. Number 3, the duties of an individual to another, or the commutative justice. This is what Plato meant when he argued that justice is giving each person their due, and what Aristotle implied by saying that distributive justice involves treating equals equally, and commutative justice involves giving people what they deserve. Commutative justice ensures fairness in all exchanges and agreements between individuals or social groups. So next is particular applications of justice. The duties of justice. The most fundamental principle of justice, one that has been widely accepted since it was first defined by Aristotle, is the principle that equals should be treated equally and unequals unequally. Talking about murdering is a great wrong because it runs counter to the basic principle of love and justice. There is no love and justice, the important virtues in human life, if you kill or murder someone. It does violence to the social order and therefore against the moral law. Murdering committed as a crime. If you do murder, you are violate the moral agreement. It is against man's nature as a social being and therefore against the natural law. Natural law includes the idea that it is universally accepted and understood that killing or murdering a human being is wrong. So, if you are murdering, you are violating the natural law. What happens if men murder each other? Social life will become impossible. It robs God of his sole dominion over life and death. From the moral viewpoint, willful abortion is likewise wrong, and no less than willful murder. The fetus is destined by nature and therefore has the natural right to live, and no human authority can destroy it. Euthanasia or mercy killing, the practice of administering painless death to one suffering from an incurable or loathsome disease, even with the intention to relieve the patient from useless and extremely painful suffering, is not morally justified on the same ground, to shorten directly the life of another, even with the intention to relieve him from a useless suffering, would be against the law of nature and nature's God, who alone has the authority over every moment of man's life. The end does not justify the means. So the next is rights of the individual. The self-defense. Self-defense is the right to prevent suffering, force, or violence through the use of a sufficient level of counteracting force or violence. This definition is simple enough on its face, but it raises many questions when applied to actual situations. These conditions are: number one, that there is imminent danger of losing life or great bodily possessions. In order to invoke self-defense, certain conditions must be met, such as unlawful aggression, reasonable necessity of the means employed to prevent or repel it, and lack of sufficient provocation on the part of the person defending himself. Number two, that there is no other way of escape. Number three, that no greater force can be inflicted than what is required to ward off aggressions. The force you can apply in self-defense is to make the aggressor not to harm yourself anymore. It's either you can make the aggressor hurt or it can cause murder, but in a good way, just to defend yourself. If the aggressor cannot harm you anymore, you can't apply any forces to the aggressor. These conditions are more or less the application of the four general conditions to justify the doing of an act which has double effect. So that's all. Thank you.
Good day to each and everyone. I am Shadik Mpametiren and I'm from Group 2, and topic that assigned to me is first, honor and good name, second, truthfulness, third, mental reservation, and fourth, family and social ethics. So first, let us discuss about honor and good name. So honor and good name. One of the greatest possessions that a man has is his honor. Consequently, any deliberate act that intends to destroy the good reputation of another constituent is a grievous violation of the moral law. Speaking ill or writing anything to ruin the good name of anyone, especially when what is said or written is not true, is a grave wrong. It is against the principle of love and justice. It inevitably leads to discord and disorder among men in society. Hence, it's against man's social nature. So, libel is always wrong even if what is said or written against the person is true or partly true. For truth is not justification for libel. A malicious intent to destroy the reputation of another world from the moral standpoint still constitute libel irrespective of whether the statement made true or not. This act has all the malice of extortion and usually involves the malicious intent of libel. So next, let's proceed to truthfulness. So one of our duties of love toward our neighbors is truthfulness or veracity. Moral truth is the conformity between what one says and what one has in mind. A lie is telling what is not in one's mind. So, lying is intrinsically wrong. Example is, first, it is against the nature, purpose of speech. Man is speaking creature. He is given the power of speech in order to be able to live and communicate with his fellows. But, how can he live and communicate with his fellows by lying? Second example is, lying tends to disturb the social order because if men lie, there will be no more mutual trust, which is the very basis of harmony and peace in social life. So lying does violence to man's social nature and therefore is against the moral law. Next, let us proceed to mental reservation. So, mental reservation is the making of a statement which would seem a lie without qualification, but would not be a lie with the proper qualifications reserves in one's mind. It is similar to giving a double meaning statement under certain conditions which are dictated by the principle of justice and prudence. A mental reservation is not a lie and therefore does not share in the malice of a lie. Examples of mental reservations are, first, pleading not guilty though one is in fact guilty in court can be a form of mental reservation which does not incur any violation of truthfulness, for the phrase not guilty is to be understood as not guilty until and unless you prove so. This is in accordance with the legal principle that a person must be presumed innocent until proven otherwise. Second example is, to one who wishes to buy asking you if you have this or that thing. For instance, you may answer no, reserving mentally the qualification not for sale. Sometimes it may even be advisable or necessary to make a broad mental reservation. In the case of a priest when asked what he heard in the confessional, or in the case of a doctor when asked by his nervous patient about the patient's really serious conditions. The priest can say, I cannot tell, and the doctor can say, you should not worry or you will be better if you don't worry, with those in close practices only in the doctor's mind. Now, last example is, it is wrong to make a mental reservation when one is obliged to tell, as when a boy is asked by his father if he got the money from his pocket. If the boy really got it, he cannot make a mental reservation by simply saying no, meaning it was not he but his hand that got it. So next, let us proceed from family and social ethics. So ethics deals with human relations in a community, but the basis of the whole complexes of human relationships is found in the family, which is the very unit of society. Hence, social ethics must include and begin with family ethics. The closest of human relations exist from among the members of the family. Proper relations, which is the very basis of family life in society, demands respect and love for authority. So, third, the duties of parents to children and of children to parents are too obvious to be mentioned here. However, it is worthwhile to emphasize that the primary in the family life is the proper upbringing of children. This entails especially the proper training and education of children in the home and in the school. One of the greatest problems of our times in our country, one that has recently attained alarming proportions, raising for urgent concern and action on all civic-minded citizens, is juvenile delinquency. This revolt of our youth began with a slow loosening of moral discipline among our youngsters, but it is fast erupting into vandalism, gangsterism, and at times into an all-out war with all the crimes and offenses associated with it. While many and varied must be the causes indicative or constitutive of the malady, the root cause we believe is to be traced to the veins or condition of family life. The evil of teenagerism, we believe, is primarily and mainly due to the lack of or neglect of moral guidance and training on the part of parents for their children in the home. And parents, therefore, should not only look after the physical and intellectual welfare of their young, but also after their moral training, which is the most important of all. Moral training should be given by constantly teaching and good example. For their part, the children are obliged to love and obey their parents. As we already pointed out before, unless what may seldom happen, they are asked or made by their parents to do something contrary to the natural law. Since family unity is the basis of social unity, it follows that anything destructive or detrimental to family life and unity is likewise destructive of the social and moral order. Thus, from the moral standpoint, divorce is wrong for first is because it destroys family unity, which is the very foundation of the social unity. Second, it is because it means the breaking of a solemn promise made in marriage, and it is morally wrong to break one's promise. Marriage is essentially a contract, a promise made by a couple to stick to each other for good, because love, which is the very essence of marriage, must be true and enduring. The third reason is because it stifles the very spirit of love which holds the family together. Or how can a couple truly love each other when they know that they may be separated from each other by divorce, perhaps in the near future? The very thought or possibility of a divorce thereby hampers that love that should exist between husband and wife. The fourth reason is it is against the primary end of marriage, which is the proper upbringing of children, for it deprives the children of their right to be supported by both parents, especially when they are young. Divorce would place the children in such an atmosphere and situation where they can live only one half of their lives. Now, last reason is because it separates what nature has welded together. In its child, nature and nature's God has inseparably linked up both father and mother. But divorce would separate these two natural and inseparable elements, as if this could be done by arranging that one half go to the father and the other half to the mother in the process of separation, so that divorce would put us under what nature and nature's God has joined together. That's all.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Princess Eliza S. Pengson of Group 2, and today I will be discussing the birth control and morality and the latest pronouncement of the Church on contraceptive. Birth control and morality. Birth control is discussed nowadays as a means to check the menace of the so-called population explosion and its attendant and consequent evils. Frequently, however, the moral issues involved are not taken into consideration in this discussion. This is unfortunate because birth control is primarily and fundamentally a moral question which should be viewed and answered from the moral standpoint. So, ang birth control ay tinatalakay sa kasalukuyan bilang isang paraan upang masuri ang tinatawag na explode ng populasyon o pagsabog ng populasyon at ang mga kaikibat na kasamaan. So, kadalasan ang mga isyong moral na kasangkot ay hindi isinasaalang-alang sa mga talakayang ito. Ito ay nakakalungkod, bagkus ang birth control ay pangunahing isang moral na tanong na dapat tingnan at sagutan mula sa moral na pananaw. Kung ang etika ay tulad ng pinapakita natin kung gayon, ang anumang tanong na tumatalakay sa mismong posibilidad at simula ng buhay ng tao at kung saan ay malapit na nanuugnay sa pinakadulo at gawain ng buhay pamilya, ay karaniwang isang moral na tanong. Ngunit, kailangan muna natin gumawa or alamin kung ano ang pagkakaiba sa pagitan ng dalawang uri ng birth control. Ito ay ang artificial birth control at ang natural birth control. Birth control includes the following contains the so-called rhythm method. So, kasama sa natural na birth control, ang sumusunod na continence ang tinatawag na rhythm method kung saan ito yung mga family planning. So, ang artificial birth control which includes any devices, mechanical, chemical, surgical, as sterilization for the purpose of destroying the semen and or frustrating the end of the sexual act while taking advantage of the pleasure in it. Willful abortion falls under this latter type and involves greater malice. So, ang artificial na birth control na kinabibilangan ng anumang device katulad ng mechanical, chemical, surgical bilang isang sterilization para sa layunin ng pagkasira ng semen at pagkabiko sa pagkatapos ng sexual na gawin habang sinamasamantala ang kasiyahan dito. So, ang kusang pagpapalaglag ay nasa ilalim ng huling uri na ito at nasangkot ng mas malaking malisya o malaking kasalanan. As intelligent judgment concerning the morality of the birth control must be used on the right appreciation of human sexuality in male. So, sexually can be considered on a two-fold level. So, bilang matalinong paghatol tungkol sa moralidad ng pagkontrol ay dapat gamitin sa tamang pagpapahalaga sa sexualidad ng tao sa kasal. So, ang sexualidad ay maaaring isinasaalang sa dalawang antas. On a purely biological, physiological level, the two sexes appear as essentially directed towards one another at the same time once the apparition of a third person, the child. Indeed, the sexual differentiation in plants and in animals, as well as in man, is a sign of a complementary role in the apparition of an offspring and the perpetuation of the species. Sa purong bioholikal or ang physiological na antas, ang dalawang kasarian ay lumilito bilang mahalagang nakadirekta sa isa't isa at sa parehong oras ay nagpapakita ng isang ikatlong tao, ang bata. Sa katunayan, ang sexual na pagkakiba sa mga halaman at sa hayop, pati na rin sa tayo ay isang tanda ng isang komplementaryong papel sa pagpapakita ng isang supling at ang pagpapatuloy ng mga species. Next, so, on a physiological level in which not brutes are involved but person, sex became penetrated, modified, and elevated by human, rationally and distinctively human emotions. On this psychological level, sexual union in marriage gets a deeper and consequently higher meaning. Two human beings united in wedlock are capable of more than just fecundation, but also especially mutual self-giving in love for their mutual perfection. So, sa antas na ito, sa antas ng physiological kung saan hindi mga brute ang nasasangkot kundi ang mga tao. Ang sex ay naging penetrated na binago at binataas ng tao sa makatwiran at natatanging mga damdamin ng tao. Sa antas na ito ng psychological, ang sexual na pagsasama sa kasal ay nagiging mas malalim at dahil dito mas mataas ang kahulugan. Ang dalawang tao na pinagsama sa kasal ay may kakayang higit pa sa pag-aasawa kundi pati na rin ang espesyal na pagbibigay ng sarili sa isa't isa sa pagmamahal para sa kanilang magiging perpektong pamilya or ang pagsasama. The pill confronts ethics and moral theology with a new situation, and the question is raised whether the use of the pill respects or not the twofold finality of the conjugal act. So, ang pill ay humaharap sa etika at moral theology sa isang bagong sitwasyon at ang tanong ay tinaas kung ang paggamit ng tableta ay nirespeto hindi ang dalawang beses na finality ng conjugal act. So, as a practical solution, as of now, this only can be said. So, bilang practical na solusyon, sa ngayon, ito lamang ang masasabi. First, a pill whose function is simply regularize an abnormal cycle and which is used for such purpose seems to be licit, as any normal medicine can be licit when the method of rhythm is morally advisable. So, ang isang pill na ang function ay simpleng gawing normal ang isang abnormal na cycle at ginagamit para sa ganoong layunin ay tila licit. Dahil anumang normal na gamot ay maaring licit kapag ang paraan nito ay morally advisable. So, 2. A pill whose function is simply to inhibit the ovulation or which is simply used for that purpose cannot yet be declared allowed by the moral theologians, even when there is a good reason for avoiding new birth. So, ang isang tableta ng pill na ang tungkulin ay para lamang pigilin ang ovulation o ginagamit lamang para sa layuning iyon ay hindi pa may deklarang pahintulutan ng mga moral theologian kahit na may magandang dahilan para maiwasan ang bagong kapanganakan. So, sa sinabi, so, yung pill ay hindi maaaring gawin. Latest pronouncements of the Church on contraceptive. The Church has consistently maintained its opposition, if not condemnation, of contraception and abortion. The same stand, Church against the same, was reiterated and stressed by Pope John Paul in homily he delivered in the Mass he celebrated in Cebu City, Philippines, February 1981. So, ang pinakabagong pagpapahayag ng simbahan sa contraceptive. So, patuloy na pinanitili ng simbahan ang pagsalungat nito kung hindi man ang pagkondena sa pagpipigil at pagpapalaglag. So, nagsabi rin si Pope John Paul na kumbaga hindi siya sang-ayon sa pagpapalaglag at pagbubuntis na ito ay kanyang binanggit sa kanyang misa na kung saan sinabi niya rin na ang Diyos lamang ang may kakayahang magbigay ng buhay at kung saan ang pagkakaroon ng anak ay isang biyaya, na kung saan ito ay kanyang sinabi sa kanyang misa sa Cebu City noong February 1981. At also rin in Islamic perspective, so ang pagpipigil or ang pagpapalaglag sa bata ang pagpapalaglag ay isang malaking kasalanan dahil sa Islam. Ito ay isang napakalaking kasalanan dahil Allah lamang ang kakayahang pumatay at ang pagkakaroon ng anak ay isang biyaya.